Birthdays were never a big deal in my family. At least not mine. When it was my brother Jeremy's birthday, the house transformed into a Pinterest explosion: gold balloons, catered sushi, a stupidly expensive cake with layers that had their own zip codes. One year they even hired a magician. Not for the kids. For Jeremy. Because, according to my mom, he still believes in wonder. When it was my birthday, let's just say if you blinked you missed it. And if you dared mention it, you got the classic mom line: "You're so low maintenance, sweetie. You don't need all that fuss." As if being ignored was my defining personality trait. This year, though, I thought it might be different. I had turned 26. Not a milestone, I know, but something about it felt heavier. Maybe because I had just started to piece my life together. Got promoted at work, finally moved out of my roommate's moldy apartment, bought a used car that didn't sound like a blender full of gravel. Progress. And this year, for the first time in a long time, I had dared to hope that maybe, just maybe, my family would notice. I didn't expect a parade. Just maybe a dinner. A text. A cake from the grocery store that didn't taste like frosted cardboard. Instead, silence. Morning passed. Afternoon too. I even gave them a generous window, maybe they're planning a surprise buffer zone that hopeful people invent to protect themselves. Around 6 p.m., I heard a car start in the driveway. I peeked through the blinds like a sitcom character, expecting to see balloons, a cake box, something. Instead, it was my mom, dad, and Jeremy. Dressed up. Laughing. Getting in the car. I opened the door just as they were backing out. "Hey," I called. "Where are you guys going?" Mom looked mildly startled. "Oh, hey, honey. We're just grabbing dinner." Jeremy, from the back seat, shouted, "Special dinner! Dad made a reservation at Taverna Luca." That's his favorite restaurant. One of those overpriced rustic Italian places where the bread comes in a tiny cloth pouch like it's being baptized. "Oh," I said. "Cool. I'll just see you later?" "Sure thing, birthday boy," Mom called. And then she shut the door. "Not mine. Theirs." And they drove off. For a few seconds I just stood there. Like maybe someone was going to jump out of the bushes with a cake and a banner that read, "Gotcha!" But no. Just me. And the sound of the neighbor's sprinkler clicking like a sarcastic metronome. I went back inside. Opened the fridge. Leftover Chinese takeout. One dumpling. It was the most depressing game of "What's for dinner?" I'd ever played. But I ate it. Alone. In the kitchen. While my family clinked glasses over tiramisu 2 neighborhoods away. The worst part? I tried to rationalize it. They're busy. They forgot. They'll make it up to me. But as the night went on and not one text came through, not even a drunk emoji from my dad, it sunk in. I wasn't low maintenance. I was optional. And the thing about being optional is, eventually, you stop waiting to be chosen. The next morning, Jeremy posted a group photo from the restaurant. All of them smiling, wine glasses raised. Caption: "Family is everything, yellow heart." I didn't comment. I didn't like it. But I did read it. Over and over. Because that's what lonely people do. They look for clues in captions like archaeologists uncovering proof of abandonment. A week later, Mom sent a card. A plain white envelope with my name scrawled on the front like it was an afterthought. Inside was a greeting card with a generic "Happy birthday, son!" in Comic Sans and a $20 bill folded once. No message. Just that. Like an awkward bribe from someone who knew they messed up but didn't want to actually admit it. I stared at the 20 for a long time. I almost used it to buy lunch. Instead, I stuck it on the fridge with a magnet shaped like a duck. It stayed there for 11 months. And every time I opened the fridge, it reminded me that even when they remembered me, it was barely worth a full tank of gas. But I didn't say anything. Because when you're the quiet one, people expect you to swallow everything like it's your job. Until they ask you for a favor. Which they did. Almost exactly 1 year later. It started 11 months after the dumpling dinner incident. I'd almost forgotten about it. Not in a healed, mature way, more like how you forget the shape of a bruise until someone taps it again. I'd just gotten home from work when my phone buzzed with a message from Mom. The kind of cheerful, overly punctuated tone she uses when she wants something. Hey sweetie! Hope you're well! We're starting to plan Jeremy's engagement party. Thought it'd be fun to loop you in. No. How was your birthday last year? No. Sorry we left you home with Szechuan leftovers and a flickering kitchen light. Just straight into planning Jeremy's special moment. I didn't respond. So 2 hours later, the family group chat lit up for the first time in months. Carter Family Group. Mom. Hi everyone. Big engagement party coming up, smiley face. Jeremy. It's gonna be fire. Dad. We need to start getting logistics together. Landon, think you could help coordinate? You're the organized one. Mom. You could host a planning night? Maybe do one of your famous snack trays? There it was. My role, once again, the default in turn. Not the celebrated son. Not the remembered birthday boy. The reliable, invisible one with an Excel sheet and a cheese board. My phone buzzed again. Jeremy. Seriously though, your lasagna bites at Christmas were bomb. Bring those? LOL. I stared at the screen for a solid minute. It was so casual. So oblivious. Like I hadn't spent my last birthday alone, while they all did a family dinner without the full family. The worst part? I almost responded. Out of habit. Out of reflex. Like a dog that still comes when it hears the leash jingle, even after being left outside in the rain. But then I remembered. The dumpling. The card with the $20. The filtered photo from Taverna Luca with Jeremy tagged in a wine toast and me tagged nowhere. So I muted the chat. Didn't delete it. Just silenced it, like a ghost I wasn't ready to block. A few days later, Aunt Shelley called. I knew what it was before I picked up. Her voice came on bright and sugary, like she was selling something nobody wanted but everyone was too polite to return. Honey! Your mom said she hasn't heard from you. Everything okay? I leaned against the counter. Everything's fine. Well, we're all really looking forward to celebrating Jeremy and Emma. He said you haven't RSVP'd yet? Didn't get an invite. Oh. I'm sure that's just a mix-up. You know how your mom gets with online forms. Right. Because I'm the mistake. Not the memory of last year. She thought it might be nice if you helped with setup. Aunt Shelley continued. You've always had such a good eye. Funny, I said. No one mentioned that last year. A pause. A shift. Like she heard it, and didn't want to acknowledge it. Family's complicated, she said finally, like that was a valid excuse for being disposable. Only when it's convenient, I replied. She didn't argue. She just pivoted. Well, we all miss you. Let me know if you change your mind. Click. I didn't change my mind. In fact, I went deeper into my own space. Started hosting game nights with friends. Adopted a routine. Even tried baking once, which failed catastrophically but made the apartment smell like burnt potential and cinnamon, so I counted it as a win. Meanwhile, the family thread kept pinging updates like I was subscribed to a wedding planning newsletter I never signed up for. Carter Family Group. Jeremy. Pick the venue. Lakeside Pavilion, baby. Mom. Wait till you see the charcuterie options, smiling face with heart eyes. Dad. Need someone to handle playlists. Landon? Jeremy. Dude, you still have that Spotify? Throw in some classic bangers for me, lol. I ignored it all. No one brought up my silence. No one acknowledged the absence. Because that's how it always was. I only existed when I was useful. And now, for the first time in my life, I wasn't available. And they didn't know what to do with that. The wedding invite came in the mail a month later. It looked expensive. Pressed flowers, fake calligraphy, and a watercolor of the venue like they were launching a travel agency. The envelope even had a wax seal. Like my brother's engagement was a royal decree and not the result of a tipsy proposal in a parking lot behind Olive Garden. Inside the RSVP card, 3 boxes. Gladly attending. Regretfully declining. Happy to help with coordination and setup. That last one wasn't a question. There was no box for. Just attending. And certainly not for. The guy you left out of dinner and birthday cake last year. It was clear what role I was being assigned, the unpaid intern. I set the card aside. Right next to last year's $20 birthday card. My personal museum of family priorities. Jeremy called the next day. Rare occurrence. Usually it's a one-word text or an accidental selfie. Yo, he said. You get the invite? I did. So you're in? For? Set up squad. We're doing a rustic lakeside vibe. Uncle Ron's got speakers. You can handle logistics, snacks, vibes. Ah, I said. The clipboard treatment. Jeremy laughed. Come on. You love organizing stuff. No, I'm just good at it. Because someone had to be. Jeremy, I said. Why would I volunteer for this? A pause. Because you always do? That's when it clicked. He didn't even realize he was asking for a favor. In his mind, I was a permanent fixture. Like string lights or folding chairs. Reliable. Low maintenance. There to make the day go smoothly, not to enjoy it. I might be busy, I said. Dude, seriously? You'll be fine. He didn't reply. Just hung up with the same casual confidence that got him through high school on charm alone. A few days later, Mom emailed. Subject. Just a thought, smiley face. Inside. I know you and your brother are different, but this day is about family. Let's come together to celebrate. You're so good at keeping things calm. We really need that energy. Need. That word always shows up when they remember I exist. Not on my birthday. Not when I got promoted. Not when I moved apartments and sent the new address no one saved. But now. Now they needed me to keep things from falling apart. Then came the third message. Dad. Short. Cold. No drama. This isn't about you. Show up and do what's right. No pressure, right? Not a single one of them had acknowledged last year. Not the missed birthday. Not the silence. Not the dinner they dressed up for while I sat alone reheating dumplings. But now they were unified. Not around me, just around the expectation that I'd fall in line. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have an answer, but because I knew it needed the right delivery. And that delivery? Was going to be one sentence. On a card. The wedding planning thread hit a fever pitch 2 weeks before the big day. It was like they'd forgotten I hadn't RSVP'd. Or worse, assumed I'd come around once they gave me something shiny to hold. Carter Family Group. Mom. Landon, we're finalizing guest seating. Can you coordinate the welcome table? Dad. Jeremy says you have a speaker we can use for the vows? Jeremy. Also, can you pick up Grandma from the airport? Mom. Please let us know soon. Yellow heart. That emoji was working overtime. Like it could soften the fact that I was now expected to handle tech, transportation, and seating, for a wedding I wasn't even sure I was invited to enjoy. No one asked how I was. No one asked why I'd gone quiet. They just kept stacking tasks like I was Amazon Prime, dependable, invisible, and free. So I took out a note card. Plain white. The kind my mom keeps in her kitchen drawer for labeling cheese boards and passive-aggressive pantry notes. And I wrote, Sorry, not my table. Then I placed it in front of a plate of cold lasagna. Took a photo. And sent it to the group chat. No caption. Just the image. It was quiet for 3 minutes. Then, Jeremy. What? Mom. Sweetheart, what's going on? Dad. Is this a joke? Jeremy. Bro, are you serious? Now? This is my wedding. Mom. Can we please act like a family here? There it was again. That word. Family. Not when they left me behind. Not when they forgot my birthday. Not when I was eating takeout while they were raising toasts. Only now. When they needed labor. I didn't reply. Instead, I muted the chat again, for real this time, and slid the card onto my fridge next to that $20 birthday bill. 2 little notes that said everything they didn't. Later that week, Aunt Shelley called. Again. You really hurt your mom's feelings, she said. I raised an eyebrow. Did I hurt her feelings? I asked. Or just refused to ignore mine for once? She was crying, she added. She also didn't call me for my birthday. A long pause. Then, it's not about that. No, I said. It's about the fact that I was the only one who noticed. She didn't argue. She just sighed. So you're not coming? I never said that. You're not helping? Nope. Silence again. Okay, she said softly. I guess that's fair. The night before the wedding, I got a text from Jeremy. Just one line. You really not coming? I stared at it for a long time. Thought about typing something poetic. Something devastating. Instead, I wrote, not unless there's a chair for me. He left it unread. I didn't hear back. And I didn't expect to. Because that's what happens when you stop performing the role they wrote for you. They don't know what to do with you. Especially when the quiet one finally says something loud. The next morning, I got dressed in a black button-down and jeans. Nothing fancy. I wasn't going to their party. I was taking myself to breakfast. Sat at a diner, ordered pancakes with extra butter, and watched the wedding photos roll in on Instagram, all white linen and lakeside smiles. They looked happy. They looked complete. They looked like I was never supposed to be there in the first place. And for the first time? That didn't sting. It felt like the truth. And truth, as it turns out, is more filling than birthday cake. The wedding came and went without me. No last-minute calls. No texts begging me to reconsider. Just radio silence, like I'd been quietly photoshopped out of their picture-perfect weekend. But I watched it unfold anyway, not because I wanted to, but because algorithms don't forget who your family is. Instagram knew. Facebook knew. Even Google Photos sent me a little memory from this day last year. Reminder, which was extra insulting considering last year's memory was me holding a single dumpling over the sink like a raccoon with imposter syndrome. But this year's highlight? The welcome table. In every photo, there it was, slightly crooked, decorated with fake eucalyptus, and manned by Jeremy's college roommate Kyle. I knew Kyle. He once microwaved a fork. But sure, he could handle guest check-in. In the comments people raved. Beautiful event. So magical. Your family is goals. I didn't like a single post. But I read all of them. Because sometimes you have to see the fantasy to remind yourself what the truth cost. The following Monday, I got the first call. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then Dad. Straight to missed call. Then Mom again. This time, she left a message. Landon. We need to talk. Please call me. I didn't. Not out of spite, out of peace. There was nothing left to say that hadn't already been written in silence and lasagna. That Friday, I came home to find a small box on my doorstep. Inside, a mini photo album. Handmade. With ribbon. On the first page, Jeremy and Emma smiling under a floral arch. On the second, my parents' arms around the happy couple. On the third, a note. In my mom's handwriting. We missed you. It wasn't the same. That's all it said. Not, we're sorry. Not, we should have done better. Just a vague ache pretending to be an apology. I closed the album and placed it on the bookshelf. Not to cherish, just to remind myself. People can miss you. Without ever learning why you left. The next week, Aunt Shelley called again. This time, her tone was different. Less sweet tea, more straight talk. They're not doing well, she said. I didn't ask who. She went on. Jeremy's upset. Your dad's mad. Your mom's quiet. She keeps saying she thought you'd show. She also thought $20 and a smiley face fixed birthdays. I'm not defending her, Shelley said. But they're rattled. You've never pushed back like this. Exactly. That's what scares them. I almost laughed. Me? I scare them? Not you, honey. Just the version of you that doesn't say yes anymore. Later that night, I pulled out the RSVP card again. Still blank. I flipped it over and jotted something on the back. Nothing long. Just a date. My next birthday. I stuck it on the fridge next to the old card and the note that started it all. A timeline. A quiet little calendar of when things shifted. Not in a blow-up. Not in a fight. but in a fork in the road, where I didn't follow them anymore. Because here's the thing they don't understand. When someone always says, yes, they don't expect your no to be permanent. They assume it's a pause, a mood, a temporary storm. But sometimes, no is just the beginning of your voice finally being loud enough to hear, even if it only echoes in the space where family used to be. Absence doesn't make the heart grow fonder. It just makes things quieter. Uncomfortable. Like someone turned off the radio mid-sentence, and now everyone's pretending it was never on. I stopped showing up, and no one said anything at first. Not directly. I missed Sunday dinner? Crickets. Didn't comment on Jeremy's honeymoon posts? Radio silence. Skipped the Carter family pumpkin patch parade? No angry texts. Just a suspicious drop in photos. Like my absence had to be edited out instead of addressed. But you could feel the static building. And eventually, it started crackling. Thanksgiving was the first real test. They always did the same thing. My mom's famous dry turkey, Dad pretending to know how to carve it, Jeremy loudly explaining football to people who already knew it, and me, seated at the corner of the table with the same quiet and helpful label pinned on like a name tag. But this year, I wasn't there. I didn't call. Didn't send a Happy Thanksgiving text with a smiling turkey gif. I just didn't exist for the day. 3 days later, I got a photo from Aunt Shelley. No caption. Just the dining room. The table was set for 8. There were only 7 people in the picture. My chair was still there. Napkin folded. Fork polished. Empty. I didn't respond. But I looked at that photo longer than I meant to. Because setting a place for someone you didn't invite back, that's not guilt. That's muscle memory. And muscles take time to realize they're working for nothing. Christmas came next. I got a box in the mail. No return address, but the handwriting on the label gave it away. My mom, still writing like she's solving crosswords under pressure. Inside, a Starbucks gift card, a pine-scented candle, and a generic store-bought card that read, "Warm wishes, the Carters." Like I was a neighbor. Like they were hoping to stay on my good side in case they needed to borrow sugar. No personal message. No. Love, Mom and Dad. No reference to my birthday. Not even a guilt-wrapped "We miss you." Just the equivalent of a shrug wrapped in bubble wrap. I lit the candle anyway. The scent was called Woodland Solstice. It smelled like burnt pine cones and unresolved tension. I set the card next to the old RSVP and the original "Sorry, not my table" note. My fridge had officially become a shrine to boundaries. But while their messages got colder, mine got louder, not in volume, but in presence. I was moving forward. I pitched a project at work I'd been sitting on for a year. They bought it. My manager said, "Didn't know you had that in you." I smiled and thought, either did my family. I moved into a new apartment. Top floor. Actual windows. A balcony with enough space to sit and breathe. No squeaky pipes. No folding chairs. And then, somehow, I met someone. Lena. She had wild curls, a dry sense of humor, and a career in graphic design that involved calling fonts, criminal, and packaging design a public health issue. She asked about my family on our second date. I told her about the birthday, the lasagna, the $20 bill. She blinked twice. Okay, wow. Then leaned back in her chair and said, "Well, I once got kicked out of a family Zoom for suggesting we skip charades. It wasn't the same. But it was close enough." By the 4th date, she was at my apartment. She saw the card on the fridge and read it aloud. "Sorry, not my table." "That's cold," she said, grinning. I shrugged. "It's honest." She looked at it again, then at me. "No offense, but I think they underestimated you." That one landed harder than I expected. Because she was right. They didn't think I had a breaking point. They just assumed I'd bend forever. In March, Jeremy and Emma posted about their honeymoon. White sand beaches, cocktails with flowers, matching white robes. The caption? "Wouldn't be here without our amazing support system. Yellowheart #family first #grateful #Team Carter." I didn't roll my eyes. Didn't even scoff. I just kept scrolling, ordered a burger, and got back to work. That's how I knew I wasn't bitter anymore. I wasn't interested. And then in May it happened. A text from Dad. We're having a cookout next Saturday. Just family. Hope you can come. No passive-aggressive emoji. No guilt. No long-winded speech about unity or being the bigger person. Just a sentence. Just space. I stared at it. Then typed. Appreciate the invite. I'll think about it. And I meant it. Because I wasn't saying yes out of habit anymore. And for the first time in my life, I knew they could feel the difference. The day of the cookout, I almost didn't go. I sat in my car across the street, engine running, debating whether to just drive to Lena's place and pretend I forgot. I had a perfectly reasonable excuse locked and loaded, a last-minute work call. Classic. Clean. Cowardly. But I didn't. I turned off the engine and walked up the driveway, lasagna dish in one hand, sunglasses on like armor. If I was going to be seen, I wanted it on my terms. The backyard looked exactly the same. Same lawn chairs. Same folding table. Same overcooked burgers. Jeremy was by the grill holding a pair of tongs like they were a microphone. The moment I stepped through the gate, the volume dropped by half. Conversations didn't stop. They just ducked. Like everyone suddenly remembered I existed, but forgot how to greet me. Then Mom spotted me. Oh. Landon, sweetie, you came. Like I'd just wandered in from a forest. She wrapped me in a hug that felt both stiff and desperate. Like she wasn't sure if I'd disappear mid-squeeze. Jeremy called from across the yard. Dude, you made it. He jogged over, still holding the tongs. Hey, man. Seriously. Glad you're here. I nodded. Looks like you're killing it. Burgers okay? Little burnt, he admitted. But it's tradition. The smile he gave me was familiar, the same one from every birthday I never got, every celebration where I stood on the sidelines. But this time? I didn't force one back. I just nodded again and moved toward the table. That's when I saw it. The seating chart. Not a real one, just folded napkins with names written in Sharpie. Emma. Jeremy. Mom. Dad. And Shelley. Even Kyle. No Landon. No napkin. No seat. I blinked. Turned to the table behind the grill, the overflow, one they usually used for drinks and side dishes. There it was. A single seat. A paper plate. A Sharpie name tag taped to the tablecloth. Landon. At the condiment table. Next to the pickles. They made room, just not at the real table. I didn't say anything. Didn't storm out. Didn't flip the burgers or the script. I just walked over, set the lasagna down, and sat at my designated solo seat. People watched. Some whispered. Emma gave me a small wave like she was apologizing for marrying into this circus. And I sat there. Quiet. Not angry. Just done. Eventually, Aunt Shelley came over. She pulled up a chair next to mine and passed me a soda. You okay, kiddo? Yep. Looks a little tight over here. It's fine. She paused. You know, your mom said she thought you'd want your own space. Ah. The pickle throne. Generous. She smiled sadly. They still don't get it, do they? No, I said. But I finally do. I didn't stay long. Told them I had an early meeting. Packed a small plate of food, not because I was hungry, but because I didn't want to leave empty-handed. Call it symbolism or just plain pettiness. As I walked back to my car, Jeremy shouted, We gotta catch up sometime, bro. I turned and gave him a thumbs up. Didn't break stride. Didn't look back. Because catching up isn't possible when someone never thought you were behind in the first place. And sometimes, you stop trying to belong at a table that keeps moving your seat. 3 weeks after the cookout, I got a package in the mail. No return label. But the handwriting on the front gave it away, the same urgent cursive my mom used for every holiday envelope, grocery list, and emotional landmine. Inside was a photo album. Not a digital one. An old-school, printed, glued, and labeled photo album. On the first page, a photo from the wedding, Jeremy and Emma under the arch, smiling, wind blowing Emma's veil at just the right angle. It looked like a stock image. On the next page, the welcome table, the guests, my parents with champagne. No sign of me, of course. Then came a page with a caption in blue pen. It wasn't the same. Just that. Not, we're sorry. Not, we should have done better. Just, it wasn't the same. I closed the album. Not out of anger, just clarity. Because I knew what that sentence really meant. They didn't miss me. They missed what I did. The filling in. The stepping up. The convenient presence that made the whole machine run smoother. I used to think that was love. Now I know it was function. Later that night, Lena and I were sitting on my tiny balcony. She had her legs up on the rail, nursing a lukewarm tea. I was flipping through a used book I'd picked up from a second-hand shop, one with margin notes from a stranger that were more interesting than the plot. Did they follow up after the cookout? She asked. Sort of, I said. They sent a yearbook. She smirked. Did you make the cut? I got a napkin and a page that said, it wasn't the same. Oof. She winced. Hallmark missed a branding opportunity. I laughed. It felt light. Honest. I don't think they'll ever say the words, I said finally. No, she agreed. But you don't need their apology to write your ending. I looked at her, then at the tiny card still stuck on my fridge, a little curled now, fading at the corners. Sorry, not my table. It had become more than a message. It was a line in the sand. And on this side of it? Things grew. Not quickly. Not dramatically. But steadily. On my next birthday, Lena took me out for pancakes. Not dinner. Not sushi. Not a surprise party. Just pancakes. She ordered 2 plates by accident, and ate them both unapologetically. When we got back to my place, she handed me a card. Inside, a drawing she'd sketched, a picnic table, set for one, under a tree. And below it, some tables you build yourself. No $20 bill. No generic quote. Just that. I stuck it right beside the original note on the fridge. 2 cards. Same shape. Very different weight. The next week, Jeremy texted. Emma's baby shower is in September. Mom wants you to come. Let me know. I stared at it. Then typed. Wish you the best. But I won't be attending. I didn't explain. Didn't soften. Didn't joke. Just send it. Then turned off my phone, stepped outside, and sat at the tiny table on my balcony. Sunset. Coffee. Peace. It wasn't the biggest table. But it was mine. And I finally knew I belonged there.